Welcome to Diversity Matters. This program is designed to highlight the diversity-related activities throughout New Hanover County schools and the greater Wilmington region. I'm Caress Clegg. This month, we are recognizing women and their wonderful achievements and aspirations in honor of Women History Month. On August 18, 2020, we will be celebrating the 100-year anniversary of the 19th Amendment, which gave women in our country the right to vote. It is because of women such as Susan B. Anthony, Elizabeth Cady Stanton, Lucy Stone, Alice Paul, as well as Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and Ida B. Wells, and Anna Sims Banks that our show on accomplishments of women is not only possible, but encouraged. Joining me today are not only strong, affluent, and successful women, but women who are thriving in science, technology, engineering, and math, or STEM, a field that is heavily dominated by men. When we return, we will have two engineers from GE to speak with us about their careers and what led them on the path to STEM. Don't go anywhere. You don't want to miss what's next on Diversity Matters.
Because of you, I felt hopeless.
Because you said rude things about my work, I started to question my own voice.
I know it was a joke, but it still hurt me.
Because of your negative comments online, I've almost quit doing the one thing that makes me happiest in life.
Because you shared something about me that was private, I felt embarrassed.
Because you said hi to me on the first day of school, I felt included and I knew that I was going to be okay.
Because of you sharing your story with me, I feel comfortable sharing my own.
Because you were there when I was coming out, you helped me regain my confidence.
I'm still here today because of you.
Welcome back to Diversity Matters. I'm Caress Clegg. Joining us today, we have GE engineers Sean Lamb and Adria Peterkin. Thank you, ladies, for being with us this morning. It's so glad to have you on. So first, start by just telling me about what it is that you do for GE.
My name is Adria Peterkin, and I work for GE Nuclear, and I am on the Stability and Radiological Analysis team as a nuclear engineer, which is actually Sean's team, and I love it. Technically, I'm on the side that does mostly stability. So we do a lot of thermohydraulic stability calculations for customers, which are the different utilities around the country. So
okay. And Sean, I'm guessing a lot along line with
yeah,
that.
very similar. So when I started in 2004, and I was on the same team that I manage now. At our site in Castle Hayne, we build nuclear fuel, and so we press the uranium, put it in rods, put it in a bundle, and ship it off to customers. And so we do safety analysis for that fuel, and I really love it. I always have. So I've tried a couple different jobs over the years. I've done design work, and then a different kind of safety analysis, and then I came back to lead this team.
Okay.
Yep.
What drew you ladies into a career in engineering?
Well, I started out, when I was growing up, I always liked math and science, and I had really great educators, really great teachers. And in about 8th grade, one of my science teachers said, "Oh, you should join Science Olympiad, this after-school program." And it sounded fun, so I signed up, and I did it, and I just really enjoyed it. And so going into high school, I had an amazing physics teacher, said the same thing. Mr. Richardson said, "Oh, you should be in Science Olympiad." Did it, and then it just kind of, I knew I wanted to do it from there.
Gotcha. And so you actually volunteer as a coach for Science Olympiad now. How is that working with students now and kind of see that blossoming love for science and engineering and technology with those students?
It's great. I mean, I do volunteer with 4th and 5th graders, and I coach their team, and they are so curious. These kids are just so curious. They ask the best questions I wouldn't have even thought of asking. And a lot of times I learn more than they do. It feels like, right? Just because I don't know, I find it very fulfilling. And so I try to think of different ways to keep it interesting and mix it up and get them to understand the different principles we're looking for. But I love it. I think it's great to kind of pass it on.
Awesome. And Adria, back to you. What made you decide on a career in engineering?
So very similar story. I had a lot of really great teachers that kind of like, hey, you're really good at this. And I had my high school chemistry teacher. She was fantastic, Mrs. Fair. She was really excited about chemistry and was really excited about getting students involved. And also growing up, my father, he would teach us, he would have this little board and he would like teach us how to do like different math problems. And me and my brothers would go back and forth like competing, like, oh, who can do better? So
Nothing better than a little competition
exactly.
to get you going.
So that was always really good. And then when I decided that, like, you know, I really want to do this because this is fun. Like, I like science. And there's so much to it that when I went to college, I just decided to continue on doing it. So, yeah.
So speaking of college, let's talk about the education requirements for your job and your positions. What did college look like for you guys in terms of how long did you go? What were your majors? So our audience can know if they're thinking of a career in engineering, what course do they need to take?
Okay. So when I went to college, I sent in my application. I went to University of Michigan, go Blue. I sent in my application. I didn't know what kind of engineer I wanted to be, so I checked Undecided, sent it in, and when I got an acceptance back, I got a phone call from the nuclear engineering department, and they said, hey, I noticed you checked Undecided. If you take an intro class and you're interested, we'll give you a scholarship. And I was like, free money sounds fantastic to me, right?
Who's going to turn that down?
Yeah, and I took the class and I really liked it. It was this great mix of math and science. Now, you don't have to be a nuclear engineer. We have plenty of people on our team that are mechanical engineers, electrical engineers, chemical engineers, and you have to have a bachelor's. But we do have people with masters and PhDs as well. It just kind of depends. I think it's a lot of times more about how you solve a problem and just having a technical background than the exact degree.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, Adria, engineering is kind of a male-dominated field. What is it like working with so many men and just being not in the company of a high percentage of women?
Yeah, you know, it's still pretty good. I would like to see a lot more women. When you walk into rooms, you kind of look for people that look like you. And so it gets a little difficult sometimes when you walk in a room and you don't see as many like women faces or people of color. And so I think the good thing about that is that it kind of pushes you to say, okay, where are my women? Where are we? How can we come together? How can we create a space for each other and feel comfortable in that space that we've created for each other, and just working together to make sure that everyone's aware of what's happening and how we can like more diversify our field to make it more inclusive.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So, Sean, you've been doing this a little bit longer than Adria has. What changes have you seen in the engineer field and STEM field in terms of the roles and the positions of women?
Yeah, it's interesting. Like when I came into the industry, I didn't always see people who looked like me. There would be meetings where it'd be me and possibly one other woman.
Yeah.
And I've seen that slowly change over the years. I think we have a fantastic pipeline with people like Adria, and we have a couple tech leads that are women in our organization now, and you can see it changing where we'll go to some meetings now where there's mostly women in the room. There's maybe one man, and so it is all about developing that pipeline and concentrating on that when you know we're making hiring decisions, that sort of thing. I'll say that in engineering, especially, if you speak the language, you know the answers to the questions, people tend to like forget. You know, and end up caring a lot less.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
So as regards to experiencing sexism, you don't see too much of that anymore in the industry?
Not too much. I mean, you'll see it sometimes, but I do think that generally, especially in engineering, if you speak the language, do the work. Like, people don't really
pay attention
to you know, you build that credibility just on kind of your work ethic.
So I know, Sean, you're also on the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Committee for New Hanover County Schools, and as you know, with that committee, we're working to increase representation of women of color, men of color, of just more educators. Do you see that push also in your industry?
I think so. I think it's something we're constantly trying to consider in the background, and you know, one way we're trying to help with that is, I keep talking about this pipeline. We want to make sure that girls and people of color go into the fields and have the ability to go into the fields when they're trying to select what they want to do after high school, and we've tried to get in front of that by, you know, setting them up for taking the math courses, taking maybe pre-calc and then in calculus, and taking possibly physics. And in order to do that, back in 2007, we established the Girls in Technology Summit. And so that's a summit we hold every year. We have since 2007, that brings together middle school age girls from all across the county. I think we do 14 schools now. And we do like just a major engineering project every year. Awesome. And it's all about problem solving and showing them like how flexible problem solving can be. And sometimes we'll do like make your own computer. Sometimes we'll do like make a roller coaster. And so it's very hands-on activity. It's a lot of fun. But it does go back to like building that pipeline so that we can be in the game.
Adria, why do you think that's important? What's the significance of like having that pipeline in it and recruiting young girls into STEM fields?
Yeah, because like I was saying earlier, like we need to be able to see people that look like us in the field that we're in and just feel comfortable in that. To be able to grow and be confident and grow your technical abilities. And it's just fun. It's science. Science is a lot of fun. And I think that once you're confident enough to go into it and say, I'm not going to be discouraged. I know this math problem looks really crazy, but I can break it down and I can understand it and I can do the science and I can build things and I can understand things that other people can too. And so I feel like it's just growing in that confidence and practice. And and having an audience or supporters that are continuously helping push you forward, like, yeah, you can do this. It's okay. Gotcha. Not everyone knows all the answers, but we'll figure them out together. So yeah, and I definitely think that Sean's team has definitely created a platform to do that, and I would like to see like moving forward like more teams and like just people in different areas like kind of adapt those things to kind of say, okay, how can we understand what's going on? How can we figure this out? And
gotcha. So March is Women's History Month. So who were some of your role models, or who did you look up to growing up, whether inside STEM or outside of the STEM field?
For me, I think, you know, of course my mother. My mom was an educator. She taught civics and social studies and economics. And she thought everybody deserved an education, just everybody. She would go knocking on doors during summer and try to get people to go back and get their degrees. But then particularly in the STEM field, like I loved what Adria said about practicing, and it never seemed to come naturally to me. So I had to, even in middle school, I had to get a tutor for math just because I thought, like, you know, I just didn't quite understand it at the beginning. And my cousin Becky, she is a professor at Muskegon Community College. She would come tutor me, and so just having that role model at such an early age, she is so smart. It was just really great that I had that around me.
Awesome, that's great. Well, thank you ladies so much for coming and sharing your knowledge with me and sharing it with our audience. As the phrase goes, anything you can do, I can do better. I can do anything better than you. Our guest engineers are clearly proving the truth behind that.
It takes less than 1 minute to find out if you may have prediabetes. You can do it here. But you probably won't. You're busy. Kids, work, show coming back in 48 seconds. So let's do this now. Hold up one finger if you're a man, women, 0. 3 more fingers if you're over 60, 2 over 50, 1 over 40. If you're not sure, keep in mind you're sitting on a couch right now, so 1 more finger if you're not very active. 1 finger if yes, 0 if no. 1 yes, 0 no. Next, find the body type that looks most like you and hold up that many fingers while I look around awkwardly. And that's it. If you're holding up 5 fingers or more, you probably have prediabetes. Sorry to be so blunt, but hey, you're busy. Just go to the site.
Welcome back to Diversity Matters. Joining me now, we have Dr. Angie Reed Griffin, professor at UNCW, and Ms. Gwendolyn Abraham, AP Biology, Chemistry, and Forensic Science teacher at Ashley High School. Ladies, thank you so much for being here with me. So let's just start off by telling me, how long have you guys been in education?
I've been in education for more than 20 years. I've been here in Wilmington about 16 years at UNC Wilmington.
Gotcha. And how about you, Ms. Abraham?
I've been teaching 31 years, 10 years in New Jersey and about 20 years here in New Hanover County.
So why teach? Why the science and the technology field? What drew you to that?
I just love it. I had great science teachers growing up, and there really wasn't any question about what I was going to do with my life. I think I've known since kindergarten that teaching was what I wanted to do. The science part, it's just fun. It's so exciting and interesting, and I really love it.
How about you, Dr. Reed? First, tell me about your position at UNCW and why you chose that area.
Well, I work with secondary science educators, so I'm preparing the teachers to go out into the field, and Ms. Abraham has one of our candidates that are preparing to become teachers. Becoming a science teacher is something that kind of came on later on in life. I've always had a love for science. Started in middle school with a science teacher, Ms. Houghton, and then also in high school, Ms. Campbell, who I ended up being almost like her junior mentor when I began my position in high school teaching. But I guess that love for science led into a career in science education, and then I found myself, well, I want to go on to higher education, so I went to NC State, completed my degree, and here I am here in Wilmington preparing science teachers, but I also work with a middle school camp in the summertime trying to engage students in STEM activities as well.
Gotcha. You want to tell us a little bit about that camp? Is it the Junior
C Hall Academy, yes, and this year is our 15th year, so yay.
Awesome.
So we're engaging students in the community, teaching them about STEM concepts, STEM careers, as well as health and teacher education careers. So some of these areas are where we have a high need for students as far as when they get into college and majoring in these careers. So I felt that middle school was a great time to get those students early, capture their interests, teach them about those careers and the opportunities they offer.
All right, awesome. Yes. And Ms. Abraham, you also work with the Science Olympiad. I haven't worked specifically with students in Science Olympiad. Can you share more about that with us?
I've been the coach about 18 years now, and it's a set of 23 different events in biology, physics, math, computers, chemistry, forensics, all different things. Students participate in pairs typically. The team is about 18 students per team. You can have a JV and a varsity team. And they'll compete maybe in about 3 events throughout the course of the day. And it's very collaborative. It takes all year to prepare for events. So every week we're shooting rockets in the gym or doing chemistry experiments or prepping anatomy, physiology students. We're about a week and a half out right now from our competition, so we're in crunch time.
Gotcha.
So, but it's a good group of kids, 9th grade through 12th. They all work well together, kind of like-minded sort of students of all different kinds of kids, and it's just a really great opportunity for them. Last year was our first place state winner, which was really awesome for us. We were
What was the category?
It was the Right Stuff, which is a plane. So each of our students were awarded a $2,500 scholarship to NC State.
Awesome, that
so
is
we were really excited about that.
Good deal. So as a STEM educator, what are your hopes and aspirations for the field in the future in regards to recruitment of minorities and women in the field?
I guess my vision is to actually see more students of color, diverse backgrounds, to enter into these fields of STEM. Many times when the students come to our camp, they don't realize the opportunities that are available for them. And they don't see like people in their classroom, so I'm providing opportunities for them to see other high school students that come out and volunteer, college students that are actually majoring in STEM fields, to talk with them and say, hey, you can do this too, come on. So.
Awesome.
Yes.
So, Ms. Abraham, we were talking earlier, and you were just awarded and named the Cornea STEM Educator of the Year. You actually have the banquet tonight. Tell me what that was like, finding out that you won and what that means to you.
It was exciting. The application went in the fall, and I found out a couple weeks ago that I was awarded that. I was really grateful. I've worked hard, I think, and I do a lot of things. I do teach. I do the Science Olympiad. This year I've also started an online forensics course. We started 5 years ago with a forensics course here in New Hanover County, which was just at Ashley High School, and that has grown into a well-loved class at my high school. We range from about 60 to 80 students a year.
Oh, wow.
And then starting in this semester, I created an online course. So I've just started that. I'm just in the first 4 weeks of that class. And then I also teach Summer Ventures, which is through the School of Science and Math. It's a 4-week residential program at UNCW, and I work with Dr. Midori Albert there teaching forensics. So, and that brings kids from all over the state into our area, all different, boy, girl, all different ethnic backgrounds, again, to provide these students opportunities to participate in different types of science, where they maybe leading up to high school really didn't find something that they might have been interested in, but once they, maybe take a chemistry class with me, and I can say, well, hey, you're doing great in chemistry. I see that you're liking this. Why don't you try forensics the next year? And it really sparks interest, and kids can kind of see a little bit further down the road as maybe a type of job or career they might want. So I'm starting to see that happen now, especially with the forensics kids, branching off into different areas, not just biology or not just chemistry, but being creative and what they might have plans for in the future.
What does the forensic science course look like? Can you tell me what students are learning in that class?
We do the science behind forensics. So we don't really deal too much with the criminal aspect as far as the court cases and things like that. We do the testing. How do you test for blood spatter? How do you test for or how do you pick up fingerprints or determine whose prints what? We do DNA, so we do use technology that way. We borrow material or equipment from Cape Fear Community College through their chemical technical program, and we're able to use some pretty high-tech equipment in our own classrooms so that kids can use a gas chromatograph where they wouldn't have access to that in a high school. So they just all different kinds of science testing.
Gotcha.
So they're really, it's fun. This is the only class I think I've ever taught where kids don't want to leave. When that bell rings on the last day, they stay, and their heels are stuck in the ground. And I'm like, it's okay, we're done. And they said, but I don't want to leave. Can I take it again? I said, but you passed it. I said, no, but we want to just keep going. So, and that to me means maybe there's a chance for a second course because the kids, are interested.
Yeah, the need and the desire is
there. They have told me that by far they're probably their favorite course in high school that they've taken.
So each of you have been in education for decades. What are some positive changes that you've seen within the STEM field?
I'm definitely seeing more women in this field and women of color. Had a young cousin to actually graduate from A&T in the engineering field and continue on in another STEM area. I mean, it's just wonderful to see women of all ethnicities to enter into these fields. They're not feeling the only one in the boardroom or making decisions, so it's really great.
How about you? When I started teaching, I was the only female in the science department. So that was a little bit intimidating for me as a 22, 23-year-old young woman with older men, you know, so it was a little bit tough at first, but then slowly women started trickling in, and now in my department there's 2 men and the rest are women.
And the rest are women.
Yeah, so our force is pretty strong at our school.
I am woman, hear me roar, right? Awesome. So let's talk about inspiration and role models. Who were some of the people you looked up to growing up, in either within the STEM industry or outside of the STEM industry?
I guess for me, it was definitely my mom. She was an educator. She started off in the humanities areas and then later on was transitioning into science area in the middle school. Kind of like highlighted STEM is probably like my Katherine Johnson and Mae Jemison, those that made those roadways to women in STEM to just like, oh, I can do that. I can see myself in that particular role. And it just, that inspires me and that keeps me going. And I want to kind of serve as a role model or opportunity for my young students in the Junior Seahawk camp to say that, oh, I see someone in this field and I can actually do that. I can see myself there in the future.
Hearing of Katherine Johnson's passing this week was really hard. That was she was a great inspiration, even for me as someone who's outside of the STEM, just to kind of see what she did and what she was able to do, especially like in the 1950s and 1960s.
Exactly.
How about you? Who are some of your role models?
In my personal experience, my mother and my grandmother, both very strong women. My mother was a nurse. My grandmother was just a really hard worker, and she had great work ethic. So I followed their lead first. Jane Goodall is by far one of my favorite scientists. I actually had a chance to meet her once, which was a dream of mine. But as far as changing the way people see women scientists, probably was Marie Curie. When she received her first Nobel Prize, and even though the work was primarily all her work, she was not permitted to receive the Nobel Prize without her husband also receiving the prize, when they thought that a woman couldn't possibly have come up with these ideas on her own. I just find that just sad. And I do tell that to my students, you know, but times have changed, luckily, and with her next Nobel Prize and her daughter, this has been inspiring. That there has to be somebody to make the change for the rest of us.
I'm glad our students have you ladies as those people making that change. Thank you so much both for being here.
Thank you.
Representation in the workforce and in education is important. Our students need to be able to see themselves in all fields and career paths. What was once crazy to imagine a girl or woman doing should now, in 2020, be second nature. I want to thank our female guests today for being a visible representation to all little girls within our county looking to break into a field that has historically been closed off to them. Glass ceilings are meant to be broken, so hey girl, shatter away. I'd like to thank my guests for being with us today. New Hanover County Schools is working to improve equity and diversity related issues in all facets of the district. We will continue to bring you a lineup of students, educators, and stakeholders representing and highlighting our diverse community. If you have any questions or if you have a story idea for future editions of Diversity Matters, please contact our Public Relations Division at 910-254-4319. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again next month with an all-new Diversity Matters.